The first thing that should be validated before initiating a deploying process is the green build. You have to make sure all tests are passing and your test coverage is decent. I've been keeping an eye on the couple of tests that we wrote for this project manually, but relying on a manual check like that in a project is not a good idea. You are going to forget. You should automate the tests check. There are two things that you can do for that. First, if the whole test suite runs fast, you should run all the tests before each and every Git push you do. To automate that, you can use Git hooks, which allow you to write custom code to be invoked before and after certain Git operations like commit or push. But practically, the test suite will start taking longer and longer, and running it per Git push is going to start frustrating you. This is when you should go async. Use a continuous integration service and get alerted when the build breaks. An excellent testing integration that plays well with GitHub is Travis. It automates the process for you on every push. Failing tests should be treated as a top priority in any project. Okay, tests are passing and life is good, but how much of this project is actually being tested? This is a very hard to answer question, but there's something that we get out of the box with Jest that can help us make an estimate. It's the coverage report. Now, we only did a few example tests for this project, so I bet our test coverage is not good at all. Let's take a look at that. All we need to do is to add a -- coverage argument to the Jest command. I'm actually going to introduce a new script. Let's call it verify tests. And I'm going to call this with Jest. I don't need the -- watch for this one, but we'll do -- coverage. Okay, so let's run this one. Yarn verify tests. And it's running just with -- coverage. And this is the report. The only component that was tested is article list, so we have good coverage there. We have a little bit of coverage in the other files, but it's not enough. For example, only 27% of the store provider function is tested. And Just actually gives you the lines that are not tested, so this is a good indicator of where you should be writing more tests. So ideally, this report should be all green and your coverage is 100%. But even if your coverage is actually 100%, it doesn't really mean that everything is tested properly. It just means that all the lines and functions were executed during the testing run. But sometimes you have to execute functions and lines in many ways and with different inputs to test all the cases. But this coverage report is your first step. Get this to green and maintain 100% coverage all the times, and then start thinking about the more cases that you need to test certain things. There are also other options where you can actually fail the test if the coverage is not good. If, for example, the coverage fails below a certain point, you want to just give a signal to everybody that the test is failing because the test coverage dropped. Because again, unless you automate these things, you're going to forget to check things like coverage. Running this coverage command is going to introduce a new coverage directory under this project. So this is something that we should probably git ignore. So in here, I'm going to ignore coverage. Make sure it doesn't show up in the git status. And now we can commit.